So we are exploring another essence of our soul tonight. And the last time we were together, we explored the soul quality of sorrow. And I'm recalling one of my favorite quotations from a Benedictine sister called Macrina Whitaker. And she says, joy and sorrow are sisters. They live in the same house. So tonight, our soul quality is joy. And I love her quote because it so well fits with the way we have been thinking about our ego and our soul. The soul being this huge, airy, open, gorgeous white house on a huge property, and our ego being this small, cramped little house that we have lived most of our life in, forgetting that our real house is our soul house. And the work that we're doing here, the actual practice of surrendered presence, helps us to journey from the ego back to that soul house where we can access and experience for ourselves these qualities and aspects of our soul. So, a reminder that these essences and qualities of our soul is nothing at all that we develop. We do not need to work on them. We were born with them. They are God-given parts of being a human. But when we were young, children, and we did not know how to understand, we did not necessarily wield these qualities of our soul well. So anyone who's parented a 2-year-old knows that they have will. That's an aspect of the soul, but it comes out in ways that may be challenging. But the one we're talking about tonight, joy, is the one that bubbles up so easily in children. So reminding us, this is so much of an evidence of these soul qualities that are present in us from the get-go. So as we spend time with children, we can see these qualities, but especially that quality of joy. And it's interesting that in some ways we take it for granted that we will lose the way we experience joy as we age. We no longer expect to experience joy the way we see a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old experiencing. But that's not necessarily true. So recognizing the way a child can, the smallest thing can completely capture their attention. The thing that always comes to my mind is a child crouched down in a green patch of grass, studying closely a dandelion flower, a yellow dandelion flower, and then feeling the leaning in and the excitement they feel and the joy they feel of that yellow radiance. And so it is true that we have lost some of our access to our joy. It has not gone anywhere. It's always been there. What has happened is that our ego has gotten in between our soul and ourself, so that that joy can no longer bubble up as easily as we see it bubbling up in children. So think of the bubbling up. Think of delight. We do feel delight. I've seen every one of you experience delight, but children seem to experience it many times a day. Or just wonder, when you can see wonder on the face of a child. So our ego taught us how to act like adults, but part of our soul is still very childlike in a great way, not childish, childlike. So we're going to spend some time finding our way back to that aspect of ourself tonight. And before we begin our practice, we're going to have a moment here where we invite love to remind you of a moment that you've had recently where you saw, and if you can bring to mind a child particularly, where you experienced a child having an experience of joy. And if nothing comes to mind readily, then just imagine it. And then really let it land in your being. Try to imagine what that child is feeling. What joy, wonder, delight feels like to that child. And then just let that awareness that you're having drop into your heart for now. We're going to come back to it in a little bit. And for now, let's practice together. So I invite you to drop in to your own experience and to spend these first few moments just really noticing your own experience, what's happening in your being. And as you notice any experience at all arise, simply naming it silently to yourself. Hmm. So noticing the way that simply coming into an awareness of your experience, you've begun to access your own presence. Even if it's just naming, I hear traffic in the background. You're coming into this moment. And then drawing your awareness now into your body, your physical being. And we're just going to give our attention to every part of our body, beginning with our feet. And to just notice, to be interested in what may be happening in your feet. And then your lower legs. And then your knees and your upper legs. And your hips. And then your pelvis. And that low belly. And then noticing that area around your solar plexus and all your inner organs. And noticing your chest. Noticing your heart. See if you can even notice your heartbeat. And noticing being interested in your shoulders. And your upper arms. Your elbows. Your lower arms and your wrists. And your hands. Noticing your low back. And then just following the spine up your back till it reaches the neck. And noticing the scalp and your face. And then noticing your entire body as a whole. One whole physical being here now. This feeling you're having now, this experience is an experience of your physical presence. It's what it's like to be in your body. So remaining in that physical presence, not shifting your attention away, but beginning to include an awareness of inner experience. The body holds and grounds us so that we can attend to this inner experience. So noticing any emotions, feelings, images that might want to rise. subtle sensations like vibrations or inner movement. And we'll just have some silence as you completely attend to your inner landscape. And now noticing yourself as a physical being, as well as a spiritual being, as a being of mind and heart, so that you are body, mind, and soul here in this moment now. So just spend this next moment of silence deeply attending to your own presence. This is the fullness of your presence. So, in a way, when we use the language of being present, what that actually means is being able to deeply attend to the reality of our own presence. We come to know our own presence so that we can return here. We are also beings in the world, and we don't want to live apart from the world. So we recollect the fact that we are connected and in the world by recognizing now the space around us. It's not just our presence, experiencing all the presence that is around us, even in the room you're seated in. And then letting your awareness extend out beyond the walls of where you're seated and beginning to include the presence of the land upon which you're situated. And the presence of all the creatures, human and not human that surround you. Feel the teeming of life. Recognizing that we are a part of it all. And that we practice in order to serve it all in love. So remaining deeply grounded in your presence, beginning to feel your feet on the floor, and particularly where your feet are coming into contact with the floor. Or where your body is coming into contact with the seat it's on. And letting your awareness rest in between the foot and the floor, or your body and the chair. And begin to sense in that in between space the force drawing you into the earth and holding you here. And to notice that when you are held, you don't have to fear floating off or falling over. You're stable here because you're held. And when we recognize and trust that we are held, we can begin to relax. We can begin to let go. So deeply experience yourself being held. Now staying deeply in the sense of your presence and in the sense of being held, turning towards the breath and just noticing the way your body repeatedly surrenders the breath. Deeply noticing what it's like when the breath flows all the way out. What's happening in the belly, the chest, in the throat. Noticing that outflow and surrender. And when you feel stabilized enough in your presence, in being held, allowing that breath to carry you into complete surrender, a complete letting go, into love. Into a space of simple being. This is our journey from our normal, everyday, ego active selves into a space where our souls are very accessible to us. So we now attempt to access the part of our soul that is joy, that room in our house. So recalling that image you had of the child experiencing joy. And earlier we were imagining what it might feel like in our body, in our experience, but reach down into your soul and let that experience be true for you now, here. And just really noticing what it's like. You don't have to imagine, it's there. If you feel like you can't contact it, do not struggle. Don't worry. Your soul will always be here waiting for you. We keep returning. We keep giving the soul our attention. Invite you now to intend joy in the week or days that you have coming up. And just in your imagination, this inner experience that you're having, this soul joy. Just imagine that spreading out through the life that you're going to lead in these next few days, letting it envelop all your experiences, all your relationships, all the people you will come into contact with. Asking love to help us naturally share our joy. Thank you so much for practicing with me and supporting my own practice. I love you all.